I'm Alexandria Kenyon, spiritual mentor and your host of Conscious Connection, a podcast where we create space for humanness within spiritual development. Me and my When She Feels Like It co-host Kimber Klein are giving you a real behind-the-scenes look of what it is actually like to be on a spiritual development path. We will talk with coaches, healers, and other spiritual leaders who are making impact, as well as our clients who will share their real life experience as they practice owning their intuitive gifts. Stick around for unfiltered conversations that may or may not poke fun at New Age spirituality, giving you permission to show up imperfectly human.
Oh, I just came running downstairs, coming in super hot.
As you do.
As I do.
Manifestor style.
For what, Kimberly? What did I come in hot about?
You're like, we need to have more conversations on the podcast together because I love talking to you. You are the light of my life. And basically, I can't without being on the podcast. It's basically what I heard.
Okay.
What do we want to use the tactic of like, what did you hear me saying to you?
Thank you for feeding back to me.
What I heard you say
Okay.
is that you are desiring more podcast time with me for our juicy, delicious conversations recorded for all to hear. That's what I heard.
And that is correct.
Yay. Okay.
You know, when it comes to being a good listener, it's not always like hearing someone verbatim. I think that's so important. I've been caught up. I'm like, my glasses are reflecting, so they're just going to come off. But it's not always hearing verbatim what they're saying, but it's making sure like the core essence of what you're saying is locked in.
The understanding is there.
But yeah, that's exactly what I said. I love it. Okay, cute. So here we are.
Impromptu.
Mid-Monday. And we were just talking about your juicy therapy session today.
Delicious.
Oh my God.
So
like,
juicy.
What was going on? Like what do you want to share? And you can share whatever you want and keep whatever you want private because this is your fucking life. We don't need to like, first of all, fuck these bar stools. They're so uncomfortable. I got it.
Okay. What I'm working on in my personal life is how to communicate through challenging conversations that involve gaslighting and my nervous system freeze state in response to gaslighting. So I was working with my therapist on some tactics when those conversations come up, like how I can navigate through them, hold my space, hold my boundaries, and basically be really clear and communicate very clearly, and then also make sure I'm safe and protected during those conversations. Because I've had a lot of experiences with narcissists and people gaslighting me.
We're talking about this energy of narcissism and you know, what it looks like for me is when I read the energy, it's really people showing up in relationship trying to get their needs met, often at the expense of another person. And these needs are not really coming from the actual core needs of the human, but the needs that have been programmed and conditioned. And so we have these like charge words like narcissism or gaslighting and all these things. And those are really, really valid if that helps you explain your experience. And also I'm like, wow, people are so fucking wounded. Including all of us. Hello. Welcome to like being human, right? Like we've all grown up in situations to where, you know, I can speak for myself. My parents weren't the best models of how to have nonviolent communication. So I'm becoming that model and it's just hard work.
Yeah, even just like clear communication, just like owning their emotional experience and being vulnerable about it in a way that's like safe and it's received. Like just from my experiences, the model I was shown is like, if you're vulnerable, like people can manipulate you. And it's just like being able to create that own safety and assertiveness for myself of like, I can own my emotional experience. And if it's not received or somebody comes at me in a violent way, I can hold myself and I also know how to make myself safe and leave the situation if need to. So
let's talk about too, like the energetics of having a womb, being in a female body and people pleasing. You said something to me, oh my gosh, I can't even remember, just like literally minutes ago about people pleasing and why you do it.
Yeah.
And the experience of, you know, yeah, will you speak into that? Because I,
Yeah. Yeah. So this was coming up today because I was sharing about an experience where I didn't feel safe to not people please. Like, I'm like, I feel like I need to do something or say something that gives me control, because it's control. People pleasing is control in a lot of ways of this person's emotional experience, so I can make sure that I am safe. Because if they're feeling positively about me, or if they're feeling a way that is like a favorable emotion about me, I know that I'm safe. Versus if I own my no, if I show up in my truth, regardless of how it'll make them feel, there's a big unknown there of how they'll react, how they'll respond. I'm like, it could be violent, it could be aggressive, it could be chaotic. And I don't necessarily know if I can keep myself safe in those moments because of like previous imprinting of people's reactions to me and not being safe in those moments. So it feels like a safer option to people please, because then I know, I think I know how they'll respond and I can keep myself safe.
yeah, you're responding to like this pleasing way, but really what you're doing is abandoning your
Abandoning
intuition
myself.
and your truth, and that just creates more chaos.
Absolutely.
And I think it's so difficult for any person to speak their truth. For me, speaking my truth to a man is so much more
Whew.
difficult. I don't know why, but speaking my truth, even in situations where I know that I'm safe, you know, the mental kicks up this, oh, you're unsafe, like you're going to not be heard, you're going to be hurt or disrespected, or there's going to be violence or whatnot. And there's so much unconsciousness there. Can you feel it?
Yeah, I feel like I can speak on that a little bit too. It's like it's an energy match. So regardless of how safe we feel with, we're just talking about having a embodied womb experience versus like communicating with a man or a masculine. Like there's an energy match there from previous experiences. So anytime we haven't felt safe or we're responded to violently, like our body imprints that energy match. So we're in a new experience. Like when I'm in an experience and I have to speak fairly vulnerably, and I believe that it may cause pain or upset in the person I'm relating with, and if they're a man, that previous pattern of wounding comes back up, and I go into the fight or flight response or the freeze response because of past imprinting, of past trauma, of past violence. So it comes back to present time. Like that past version of myself comes back in because it's like, okay, one time we did this, one time we were open and honest about how we were feeling and tried to hold a boundary. It upset this person who we thought loved us and they hurt us.
Yeah.
So now we have to protect ourselves. And the way my body chooses to do that is freeze, just like completely clam up. So
It must be really challenging to navigate that and want to be dating men,
I would like to date
engaging in
men.
conscious relating, and you know, that's the one thing that I feel like isn't broadcast is like, okay, when we're consciously relating, our trauma comes up too.
Yeah.
People have literally texted me, I put you on a pedestal. I put you higher than everyone else because of who you are. And I'm like,
Please don't.
please don't. I'm a human. And yeah, navigating relating this past year has been really challenging because spirit keeps bringing me these circumstances of like, speak your truth and honor your no. I'm not the best at that because I do default in those like people pleasing, like if they're happy, I'm good. I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to
Yeah.
deal with the emotion, their emotional repercussions or their nervous system repercussions. And it just hasn't been great for me in any way.
Yeah. But then people pleasing hasn't been great for me either in that experience. So now I'm at a point where I'm like, well, I have to decide to do something different. And it is really challenging.
I think there's this deep innate, like this fear of being a bitch.
Oh God. Yeah.
I think that's the core wound of it. We are so afraid I mean, we've talked about this too. We're like, we don't want to create more karma. We don't want to like hurt people. We're not here to hurt people. We're here to love people. But how do you love people if you're abandoning yourself? I think self-love always has to come first. Now, there's a way to effectively communicate and not add charge or violence. But also, when you're learning this, we're all kindergarteners. Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone I date, like, we're all like kindergarteners trying to figure out how to best communicate with each other. And sometimes it doesn't work, right?
And sometimes there's going to be charge.
Sometimes there's charge. Sometimes things fucking happen. Yeah, I'm really proud of you for the way that you're navigating this. Do you want to share what did I write on the whiteboard today?
It says you're not.
Oh,
no,
I was talking to my friend
yours.
Kira, and she gave me this really awesome phrase that I think I'm going to use in communicating nonviolently. It's like, you're not the problem, not coming to you and creating like you're the problem. Like this morning I came down and I was like, hey, I really want to record a podcast episode, and Kimber's in the middle of her workflow. Kimber and I have been really like musing about this second line situation. We're both second lines, which is like we both hermit, we both get into our like genius flows, and like interruption to that, it's not always easiest for us to get back into that flow. And so we were talking about that today, and I was like, okay, but we co-create this podcast together, and how do I navigate my manifestor urge and your sacral no? It's the weirdest experience. And so I was talking, I was like, no, Kimberly, like you honoring your boundaries of your work schedule is not like, that's not the problem. You're not the problem. Like, I'm inviting you to be part of the solution, and how can we like co-create a solution together? I learned that from my friend Kira literally yesterday, and
Here we are.
We
grabbed a microphone in the middle of a Monday.
Which
it worked out.
Respecting everyone's boundaries. We've been talking a little bit too about the word gaslighting.
Yeah.
And it brings up so much charge for me. Because I've been manipulated
by that word.
Wow. Oh my God. I'm like, put a rose out in front of your freaking solar plexus because I'm about to feel something. But I was in a relationship, and there would be this constant, you're gaslighting me. And it was used against me, not in a way where it was like, hey, like there was a lack of personal responsibility in the space. And it felt like, I was reading this book with Kira yesterday, is like, when do I not apologize? When I don't apologize when someone's using something against me. I don't apologize when someone is like, oh, I want sorry, and then I want sorry again, and I want sorry again, and I want sorry, because they're not open to forgiveness. Right.
They want to punish.
And that's how I felt in my last situationship, and it was really quite hard. And so Kimber was talking with her therapist today, and her therapist was just giving her a lot of beautiful tools. Tell us about all of the tools about how to navigate.
Yeah. Okay.
Gaslighting,
just manipulation in general during conversations when I'm vulnerable or when you're vulnerable. So yeah, some of the things that were coming up were basically like, for example, like I'll share vulnerably what my experience is or what's coming up for me in those moments. And then I've experienced frequently like the partner that I'm talking to asking a lot of questions about it instead of like responding to what I'm actually saying. They'll ask questions around the experience, or they'll ask a lot of questions that put me on the defensive, like, why are you feeling that way? Or like, you said this earlier, why are you saying this now? Kind of like coming back instead of like hearing what you're saying. It's more a way to go around what I'm saying. Like they're going around it to try to get me on the defensive, conscious or not. So when that happens, she's like, you don't respond to their questions. You don't respond to what they're saying. You make a remark around them asking questions. So for example, I think if I can come up with an example.
ooh, a little charge.
Yeah, so if I'm saying like I felt like this when you did this last night, and they ask a lot of questions like why would you feel that way, or you never feel that way when I've done it before, all these things, like asking these questions, I can say something along the lines of, why are you asking me that when I just told you I felt this way? It's like, what's making you ask me that question when I told you I felt this way? Like, clearly told you that I felt this way. Because then it takes you out of being defensive. Because if they ask like, well, why are you saying this? Like, why are you feeling this now when you didn't feel this way before? You go into a response of like, I have to defend myself and be like, oh, I felt this way last night because of this, and this. And it gives them more opportunity to bypass your emotional experience and kind of like get at what they want out of the conversation. Versus if I remark on like, what's making you ask me that when I've already told you that it made me feel that way? Because then they're getting out of basically validating or even understanding that you had an emotional experience or that you had feelings around that. So it's not them honoring you, it's them like trying to shift blame. And the goal of the conversation isn't blame, it's just sharing your experience and being seen by your partner so that you can move forward in a way that's supportive to both of you. And so when we do that, we can get more information, and it also puts us out of the defensive, which will help our nervous system stay regulated.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think a couple of things I want to say is that when it comes to conflict, I'm going so unconscious. It's great. I'll come back in a second, but thank you for sharing that. It's really, really beautiful. I was reading a book with my friend Kira. It's called The Good Apology. And when your partner is bringing up something that you did or an experience, don't say anything. Listen. You know, in my experience, I think asking clarifying questions is a beautiful way, but not as a way to deflect. If there's a frequency of curiosity, you can feel that versus like
Yeah.
this, you know, because what we're feeling, right? We're sentient beings and we're engaging nervous system to nervous system. So first of all, like step for me, if you're in a partnership, I mean, like this one doesn't seem like it's continuing. Sorry. Is your nervous system grounded? Like, how do I have a conversation? Because conflict is going to bring up charge. You have an open emotional center.
I do.
So, like, literally,
I do.
one of the non-self themes is: are you avoiding conflict?
Yes.
Because
the answer is most of the time.
having an open emotional center is like, I want my emotions and my internal world to be mine. I don't want to come out of that.
Yeah, I'm like, this is private. This is reserved. Like,
Yeah,
just for me. My emotions are just for me.
exactly. Yeah. And so when it comes to engaging with someone who has a defined emotional center, of course, there's going to be fear of like,
even when not, to be
Yeah.
honest, even when like, yeah, even when I've engaged with open emotional centers, it's like that one's even more interesting because and it's fascinating because I don't want to create like this like a victim like oppressor kind of situation when it comes to these communications, because really it's just the whoever's nervous system feels like on the defense can, like, I've definitely done the like, let me ask questions around it, like I'm feeling attacked by you telling me that I hurt you, so let me ask questions around it instead of just like sitting with the fact and accepting that I hurt someone.
good people hurt people.
It just happens.
You guys, let me say that again. Good people hurt people. So when someone comes to you and says like, hey, you've hurt me, of course we're going to go on the defense because we've been conditioned to believe that if we're bad, we're going to get punished. Our nervous system's immediately going to go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Yeah.
And potentially into dorsal.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay. And then you have to, you know, so such a deep conversation.
Can I share more?
Yeah, please.
So like having the Gosh, I can think of so many situations where I've done that, where I've been on the defensive and somebody has shared with me how I hurt them, and I'm just like coming up with a million reasons of like how I can be better or how I didn't mean to and all these things. If my partners at that time had the ability or had the communications to be able to say like, I just said that hurt me. What's making you say this? Would create a pause in that dysregulation. So I could reflect and I was like, oh, I'm not validating that I'm hurting them. I'm coming from a place of like wanting to protect myself or wanting to save the relationship because I deem some sort of threat here. So I think that it's not necessarily like just for if you're being manipulated or people actively trying to manipulate you. I think it's just like to help regulate a system when people are being dysregulated.
Yeah, I love that. It's a beautiful, beautiful way to kind of intercept that firing energy coming at you, right? Even in our relationship, when we have conversations around conflict or I think we do it in a really, really beautiful way, but we also give each other a lot of space to say, raise your hand, I'm dysregulated. Can I come back to this?
So much space.
So many times in my relationships with men where I've become so dysregulated that I come so out of body that as a psychic I actually channel entities through me, and I'm like, sit. And I have been the person in my past relationship, my past situationship, he really brought that to me. He's like, you're not actively listening. And I'm like, I'm so charged by every single thing you're saying. So on the other end of that, saying, hey, wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I want to be in a space where I can hear you. Give me about 10 minutes to go breathe. Use your nervous system regulation tools, breath work. If you need to go scream, whatever it is, like validate yourself. It's like, I'm not a bad person because someone got hurt. We all get hurt.
And we all hurt people.
We want to create this interconnect. We want to bring ourselves back together into connection. And that's what the whole point of, conscious communication is like, how do we get from point A to point B? And that can be really hard when your partner, the person you're relating with, does not have tools.
Yeah.
It's
really hard.
We are not
so
we're not responsible for other people's nervous systems. It's
Mhm.
true. I've had a partner completely dysregulate me, and I have to be the one in that moment to say, whoa, hold on.
We need a pause.
I gotta hold my boundaries too. And yeah, if we're in a place of dysregulation, we can't come into harmony, connection, community.
Right.
No good conversation is gonna come out of that. And it doesn't mean don't show up. It doesn't mean don't show up and say, hey, I want to create space to create a conversation around how I'm hurting.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. It's like create space and then, make sure like we're co-regulating in that conversation, right?
Yeah.
So if you and I are coming, let's get a scenario down. Let's work this out.
Okay.
What if we recently worked through everything one day?
I just think that it's like a beautiful gauge too of like how safe you feel in that partnership is like that there is space for you to be dysregulated. There is space for you to be, I don't even want to say forgiven because it's not something you're doing wrong, but there's space for you to be dysregulated and be seen and met in that and have your partner be like, it's kind of goes back and forth. Like sometimes I create space for us to be regulated. Sometimes you create space for us to be regulated. That's like, what safe relating is for me now, at least.
I have a perfect example.
Oh yes, bring it.
Okay. So we were up in your bedroom and we were talking about moving forward with some of the collaborations we have with our business. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And then I noticed, because I think it's really important, we're all intuitive beings. Like being psychic is really just being able to be tuned into the nervous system, right?
I'm just seeing, like, just seeing the body shut down.
It's pretty easy. If
or
someone's like
change.
literally like,
Yeah.
and you can feel like they can't get words out, especially someone who has an open throat and an open emotional center coming in conversation with me, closed throat, closed emotional center. I'm gonna give Kimberly the space, and that's why human design has been so important.
I'm gonna need space. I'm gonna need space.
I'm gonna need space. Okay, but
Yeah.
like
Anyway,
we're in those moments, and I noticed that her throat can't get things out. She's feeling overwhelmed. I'm noticing whoa, okay, wow. I'm in a place where I'm like, hey, I need all these answers right now. And she's like, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Like, I can feel that. So what we did, because we've both been in these like really weird relationships that had a lot of control over communication.
Like you have to communicate this specific perfect way or I won't accept it.
And if you don't, I will abandon you.
A joyful ride. Don't recommend.
Hanging it over the thread of like, if you don't be perfect, and if you show any ounce of humanness or you become dysregulated ever, I'm leaving and I'm unsafe. And I'm like, okay. I cannot promise to anyone that I can be perfect and I will be regulated
All the time.
The whole nervous system is like this all the time, you guys. There's no preference. I mean, of course you want to be in the joy, but you can't have the joy if you don't experience the freaking dorsal states. But
so we were in that space.
We're in that space.
On my bed.
On your bed.
I'm laptoping.
You were shut down.
I was like,
you were like literally shut down. And I had this moment where I had to shift, like, Alex, why are you trying to like be right or get an answer? Like, are you really creating connection here? And I was like, no. I was like, okay, shift mid thing. And I was like, okay, great. First of all,
Nikita wants inside.
Hold on. Nikita's like, I would like to be in this conversation. Come on. She's such a weird girl. Cool. This is a podcast. Okay. So we're sitting there, and yeah, I had this moment where I was like, I saw my energy impacting you in a way I didn't want to impact. So I decided that I was almost in a dysregulated state too. I was in fight. It's like, I need to get my needs met. And then you're like, it's like, I need to get my needs met. I need you to fucking confirm to me that you're not going to fucking leave me. Right? Like these really like interesting energies. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Immediate shift. I was like, oh, hey, Kimberly, let's take 5 minutes to say fuck all of this control over our voices. Because as women, we have so many control pictures over our voices. And let's create space. And
he said to do it messy.
Do it messy.
Yeah, just communicate. Like, just flow out what's on your mind. Just like communicate it. Let it be messy. It's okay. Like, and he's like, I won't be hurt by it. Like, just get it out. And that gave me so much permission because it turned me from like, I have all of these feelings about what you're saying, and like all of these things that I've been thinking about, and now I have to like formulate the perfect communication concoction just to be heard and received by you. And that permission of like, just take space, just let it come out, just like random words. Even sometimes it was just like, just random stuff coming out that was so freeing. And we got to like a beautiful resolution because I was being able to like be fully honest
and truthful and experience your emotions and somatically release any fear that I was going to reject you for what you said.
Oh, can you imagine?
And it took me having the conscious awareness of like, soften. We don't need to fight to get our needs met. We don't need to, we have to have that awareness when it comes to relating, like both partners. Like if we don't, it doesn't really work. Right. It's just one person.
Right.
I mean, I've been in relationships where it's one person. I've just been in such interesting relationships.
Lots of learning experiences.
Yeah. And that was such a peak moment for me because I had just gone through this initiation of like nonviolent communication, set up this form. You and I are both bright beings. We need to just, if you ask the right questions and give enough space, the right answer is going to come up.
Oh yeah.
Especially if the person asking you it has a value exchange for you.
It's just like, can we be patient enough and create the space for it? Yeah.
We've had such healing. And yeah, like everything to me in our relationship is like kindergarten. We both struggle with boundaries. And so let's talk about this fucking story. This is my favorite story to tell, and then we'll wrap it up.
Do I know which story?
Yeah. So Kimberly texted me. So I'm a second line. So is Kimber. We're 2 4s in human design. So your profiles are basically like your personality. And the second line is the hermit. And so what the hermit does is it kind of goes inward to like deepen its genius. And then it gets called out for that genius by its community. And it's funny because it's this paradox. We both have 4th lines. And the fourth line is all about marketing and connection and
Networking, relationships,
and like
being out there,
community, and it's
Yeah.
just like the funniest shit.
Like,
So
which one am I?
what we just came to an epiphany about is that as a manifestor, I have very weird cycles that also overflow. I'm an emo manifestor, so I have a high and a low.
Mhm.
And I also have a hermit versus like an internal. So they call this 2-4 the introverted extrovert.
Yeah.
I never gave myself permission to be introverted ever.
Oh, let me invite you
And teach me
into
so
the
much.
cave, into the cocoon.
Yeah, that's what they say. Is like you create your own cave as a second line. I shut my door. It was like the first time I think in our relationship that I like shut in.
I was like, get it.
You were like, get it. I was like, I don't know the
I
words.
love
to
this
formulate.
for you.
Anyway, so I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like in the deepest human design lecture, just like studying so deep in the second line genius. I'm like, no one speak to me ever. And you texted me to open the door for you. And I was sitting right there, you guys. The door is like millimeters from the Canadian border. It's literally right fucking here.
Which is a TikTok joke.
No one will understand the joke, but if you've seen the witch TikTok,
You got it.
you gotta know. Okay. I'm literally so close to the door, and she asked me, and a really deep question I've been asking myself is like, do I have the energy for this? I'm a non-sacral being. I have some motors, but it's a question I think every single type should ask, because
Do I have the energy?
just because you're a sacral being does not mean you have unlimited energy. And I think that's where I was confused my first year of deconditioning. I was like, wait,
That's where I was confused too.
I was like, wait, what? No, you only have the energy for what your sacral says yes to. Yeah. Okay, like what the fuck? Okay, so anyway, I'm sitting on the couch. She texts me, bring the text up.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So we know how we handled this. Okay. She texts me. Us just texting each other.
Oh my gosh.
Till
I'm
4 a.m.
wait.
I'm obsessed.
What did it say?
It's
We
by
text each other.
TikTok.
So we lived together. Okay. I said, on my way back, if you're home, could you unlock the door? My key is in the bottom of the bag. Okay. Lots of stuff in this bag. Obviously not inaccessible, but a pain in the ass to dig out the key.
Okay. Now, as a recovering people pleaser, default me was like, just get up and do it. There was a physical feeling inside of me that was like, don't do this. And I was like, and I just sit with it for a second, and I texted you back saying,
oh my gosh, I should have just kept it up. It says, I'm reading at the moment.
informing. And
Informing.
then
This feels like a no to me. I don't know why. I know it's the littlest thing, but I'm trying to follow what I'm available for and empower you. That's what I thought was, empower you to find your key so I can continue doing what I love. And I said, sounds good. I respect that.
And then I said, I love you, because I'm not mad.
Yeah.
I'm not
And I
doing
wasn't
it
mad
as
either.
as a place of disconnection for her, but I'm trying to honor what I'm available for. And I just thought it was I thought it was the fucking funniest thing.
It was really funny.
Because then we talked about it later, and I was like, what did you, you were like, I don't even know why I texted you that. And I was like, what? Don't interrupt me. And so then we were just having this conversation. My computer's gonna die, so we gotta wrap this up. We were having this conversation last night about second lines. And I had asked you, I said, do you feel this way when you're interrupted? And
Yeah, I inform any new person I'm dating, actually, that I was like, if I'm in a workflow and I get interrupted, I might respond ragefully. And I've been working on honing that response back, but it takes so long to get into a particular flow, and it takes so much energy to get into a particular flow that if I get pulled out of it, I get so angry. Like my body just gets angry because I'm like, I just got into this creative flow and now somebody needs me and it gets me out. Yeah. So, and I've heard that experience for you. I've been on the receiving end.
wait, the best story is when we lived in the apartment and you brought tea to me. I'm gonna go to my computer to just tell the story.
I was like, oh, I know that she's creating and I know that she's.
I did inform though.
You did inform. I just wasn't aware at the extent of this. she was in a creative flow, and I knew she was writing, and she hadn't gotten up for the day, and she hadn't had any food or any water. So I'm like, oh, I'll just make her tea and like provide some support in that way. I brought her favorite tea. I brought her favorite tea because I know and love her very much. And I put it down, said nothing, tried not to be any sort of distractive, put it down. And then she later told me, she's like, what did you say? Like, I receive, or like, I accept that you were trying to support me in that moment, but your energy in my space was really disruptive.
Okay, to speak into this manifestor generator energy. This is they plug in. Okay.
Yeah, they plugged it. Speaking into the manifestor generator energy.
Speaking into the manifestor generator energy. Generators have open and enveloping auras. They're delicious little treats.
Wraps you in
It's
my
so
aura.
gorgeous. I love it. Okay, so
Manifestors.
close repelling. It's to keep us in a direct relationship with the cosmos. Okay, it's the vibe.
I love that for
We
you.
don't want people cock blocking our new way forward. The cosmic
Don't cock block the cosmic connection.
the cosmic connection. Like, don't. If you're not for me, you're gonna get repelled by me. You're not gonna like me. If you are for me, you're gonna be like, oh my god, what the fuck? I've had it. And you're like, oh my god, can you initiate me? And I'm like, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay. So I was in the biggest urge of my life. And you'll know I'm in an urge when I'm like, it's like
Manically.
It's mania. I literally thought I was bipolar my whole life. But I'm getting downloaded so fucking hard that if I don't get it out, I will forget. So I'm in my room. I see her bringing tea to me. I maintain composure because I know how to manage anger as a manifestor. She drops it off. Her aura brushes into mine.
Just like
just literally touches mine and like tries to envelop me. Now the thing about it,
I literally pulled my aura in too. Just like
no,
it didn't work.
I literally remember I was like this. And then the biggest amount of rage I ever felt inside of me. It's not because I don't love her. It's because I felt her aura pull me. And so what this looks like for me is that I need to be in my own space to not, like, your aura calls me to initiate it. Oh. So when you walk,
even when I'm not trying,
yes,
I'm just like,
it's
here's your tea because I know you haven't had any liquids today.
So then
I'm like,
which is so
I'm like,
sweet.
is your body okay?
I won't eat, I won't drink.
I know.
It's
scary.
It's like literally terrifying. When I'm in an urge, like, it's straight up not eating. It has to come out of me. I stayed up till 4 a.m. last night. I can't even sleep. It's this weird shit. I'm like, what the fuck? I did not sign up for this, but I did. So your aura will just like say hello to me. And then our auras are communicating, and my aura is like, what do you need from me? And then I will default into like, okay, now I gotta fucking initiate dinner for her. I gotta like, because our auras are already communicating for me to ask you the right questions.
Ugh.
So it takes me out of single flow into like community flow. And then I'm like, oh fuck. And then I'm like, oh my god. And then new initiations are coming in, and I'm like, no, bitch, we gotta finish this one if I don't get it done. So it's like, it like pulls me into like, and it's not even you. Like, you're not like, do this for me. You're being so sweet and generous and like trying to like support me in the best way. You're the best friend I've ever had in my life. I so appreciate it. I see you. You want to love me. I like validate that. It's in those moments where I'm like, I literally cannot speak to you because your aura is going to request from me initiation.
Yeah.
And I am initiating myself right now.
Ooh,
hot. It's fucking intense.
So hot. But we had that conversation. We were able to have that conversation.
I was like, this is gonna be messy because I don't know how to fucking.
And I was just like, just do it. Just tell me what's up. And we did. We created space for it to be messy. And now I know. In a fucking urge. Let her die of dehydration.
I'll die for my craft.
Source is supporting
Daddy
my body.
Source is sourcing me.
Yeah, I don't need to provide any earthly things. Source has got you.
You're so sweet to me though. Like, something that actually has been really helpful too is that you'll just text me. You won't bring your aura to me. you'll just text me like, hey, I have a blueberry muffin down here if you want it. And I'm like, I'll be down.
I'll get the treats.
I come down to get the treats when I get the treats, but I'm wondering too if you have any of the same similarities. So I think this might be a second line thing too. It's like, if you interrupt me, I'll be distracted by all the things you're bringing, and I won't stay in my inner world where I need to get like, I need to find this weird, like, it's like an inner journey if like I don't go all the way through it.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say it's less rageful now because if they're insistent on pulling me out, then it becomes rage. If they're asking me like quick questions and things, it's like I'm still fully in it, and it's almost like my mom would call it like dad listening, where they're like watching TV or something and they're like, uh-huh, yeah, great, sounds cool. It's like it kind of just gives you that, like I give out that really generic kind of response because my brain isn't even in it. My brain's like fully ensconced in what I'm doing. But then like there's a part of me that's just like, this person needs a response, and then I'll go away. But if they're insistent on like pulling me out, like they need my attention for something, or they require me to do something else. Like I remember when I worked in an office, and thank God it's been years. I didn't get anything done when I worked in an office because I would be in the middle of a workflow, like the middle of a task, like deep work, about to complete something, a project or something. And then somebody would come up to me and ask me a question about something else. And I would get so angry because I'm like, fuck, now I don't know if I'll ever finish that project or ever finish that thing because now my attention's been taken elsewhere. And now I'm holding resentment towards this human being that just needed my support because they pulled me out of that space and my body's unhappy about it.
Yeah.
So working from home has been a great boundary. Turning off my
Living with me though.
that's true. Just kidding.
Let's talk about this in a way. Okay. So like I came downstairs today. I was like, have an idea. So as a manifestor, you have an idea, you can immediately act on it. Every other type has to like respond externally, be invited. I'm like, I'm gonna go downstairs and see what the fuck's up.
What's that bitch doing?
What's she up to? So I come in and I interrupt your work day. And I'm like, and you're like, and I'm like, have the realization midway through, I'm like, oh, I'm not respecting your boundary. Like, you're a second line, you're in your fucking hermit, you're in your flow, and I'm not respecting it. And then somehow we got on this podcast. So how can I do better?
How can you do
Yeah.
I think it was just like I communicated that to you because you were sharing like your desire of wanting to have more space and time for us to have a podcasting time, and you said like it doesn't really flow for me after work hours because like that's not where my energy is. My energy is midday, and I was like, well, I'm pretty committed to my job 9 to 5, so it's like there's not a lot of space for that. So we kind of created a just a framework, not really like a schedule or anything, because we're both like very right oriented, which means flow, receptive, not really strategy based. Next time we'll talk about being a right type,
Literally.
but we're like, next time we're in a flow, like let's just make a note to go and get the microphone so we can just record it, because we have so many conversations. We're like, this should be on the podcast. Let's have a podcast episode about this. Let's plan it. And then like, oh yeah, let's plan it. And then we're never in the flow after that around that same thing. So it's being more in the moment for us.
Planning anything for us is just not the vibe. I have to ask you one question about being receptive, because I get this all the time for myself. So I have 4 right-facing arrows. You can look at the top of your chart. You have 3. Your left orientation is in your environment, kitchens. Okay. So
why I'm working
in the kitchen. So left is focused, right is kind of all of it. Like, so the left is like, I have a very focused vision and I have the strategy to get that one thing done. Whereas like the right, I'm like, I don't even care about that. I'm going to take everything in. So when I'm listening to someone, I'm taking them in so fucking deeply. Not even just like the words they're saying. I'm taking in their body language, the colors around them, like their emotionality. I'm taking them in so deeply. So I had this relationship to where he would ask me to do what these therapy models say. It's like, can you reflect back to me what I said? I would go into freeze
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like I was being tested.
Mm-hmm.
So many right beings have trauma, probably, I can just speak for myself, around going through the academic system, the school system, because we're asked questions and then they're like, it's not the same. I don't have a like verbatim as a right being.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, I know what you said. I know how it felt. I know, I like, it's abstract. It's not logical. And we've talked about this too, of like when people ask us questions or like, what did I say? That is my like literal trigger. And you're like, what did I say? I'm like, what I've learned now is to take space and breathe into my body and let the well answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and I feel like in those moments, this is just my opinion, it should be less around like, tell me regurgitate verbatim what I said to you, word for word, and more like, what was your understanding of what I said so that we can be on the same page?
yeah, I love that.
Like, because being right and also being like more emotional, like we're more experiencing like the connotations of the words, how they're making us feel, what we're perceiving that person to feel versus like the actual specific vocabulary that they used. Because even if we came back with the specific vocabulary, like one word could mean something totally different to me than it does to you.
Yeah. And even as like a clairvoyant, intuitive, I speak a different language.
Psychonese.
I speak Psychonese. And so I was thinking about that today. I was like, wow, like, what would it be like to learn Spanish? I was like, I've learned Psychonese, so that's great. So I'm not even really communicating the throat. I'm reading the energy the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's complicated when it comes to me having a boyfriend. Because what the fuck? Because I'm like, I need you to speak my psychic language, but also like you would have to go through my training and I can't force you to do that.
And also I feel like the men I've dated have been very like, this is what I said, these are the words I've used. And I was like, hearing that those are the words you use, this is the energy I'm sensing behind the words you're using. So
I'm joking.
what's the truth? Like what's
It's just a joke.
I'm like, what's your actual truth? And then that's where it's like I catch the shifts. It's like you can't lie.
You literally cannot. You literally cannot.
It's just not
doesn't
fun.
even work anymore.
Okay.
We just gotta trust our nervous system. But thank you for sharing too that when we get into the flow, we created a little bit of structure. But is there anything I can do to support your flow when you're, working? What do you need from me?
What do I need from you? I think just informing that you have a desire for conversation so I can create space for it. Because where I'm coming from is like you're my best friend and my sister, and I love you so much that like you are a priority in my life and you're really important to me, and like I will want to create space for you if that's what you're asking for. So like if it comes up in the moment, I'm way more likely to like fuck work. Let me just make space for you right now. And that's not always to my benefit or to your benefit. So like if you ask, like just sharing that you'd like space to talk about a subject, I can then tune in with my system and be like, do I have the energy for that right now? And then if not, we can create a solution together. Oh my God. Thank you for asking me.
Of course it's important. We live together. We're best friends. Like it's important to like ask. I want to impact you in a positive way. Hopefully I can't control that, but for the most part I can, in ways of like showing up and learning and growing.
Absolutely.
So like what I'm hearing is that just informing and sending you maybe a text and letting you respond to that and saying if you have time available will be really supportive for you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I can send you a sweet text. I'm like, coming in hot.
Like a hot tamale.
If you don't want me to talk to you,
sweet baby cinnamon.
You just send a middle finger up. You're like, you should just do this. You should
do
never
this.
Honestly,
Middle finger up.
If you don't want me coming hot,
I cannot. I'm so.
And I'll be like,
I don't know, somebody said to me, they're like, just tell him to fuck off. And I was like,
was it me?
I cannot do that.
What's it, Caitlin?
That's probably Caitlin. That's
Caitlin,
I love you, Scorpio. I love the
Every
Scorpio
Scorpio
energy.
in my life is just like,
Every Scorpio in my life's like, just tell him to fuck off. And I was like,
you're literally like, no, my good girl innocence will just be,
and I'm a sweet baby. And
My
I
sweet
would be
good girl
sad if
innocence.
somebody told me to fuck off. I would be sad.
wouldn't like it.
So
you'd be like,
that's a
I'll try harder now.
podcast for a different
Okay.
day.
Well, I love you. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Alexandria Kenyon.
We're so serious.
We're so serious and profesh.
Thank you so much, Kimberly Jennifer Klein, for joining this
Wow.
podcast.
Whole name.
You literally traveled so far. I brought it to you.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. Sorry.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Connection, the podcast. We want to remind you that any statements or opinions shared on this podcast are from our own experiences or that of our guests, and we invite you to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. If you love our show and want to connect with us further, please reach out through our website or Instagram linked in the show notes. We're excited to announce our group program Metamorphosis will be launching in the fall. To learn more, please go to alexandriakenyon.com/metamorphosis. See you next time.